If you caught this Tuesday's episode of Challenge Accepted with Jonah C., The Frequency We Forgot, you already know I went deep into what happens when we lose touch with the signal that makes us, us. But here's the thing. I've been thinking about you since then. Not you, as in a number in my download stats. I mean you. The person sitting there right now, probably scrolling through too much noise, maybe one earbud in, maybe sipping on something, maybe wondering why the world feels so out of tune. You ever notice that? Not just the noise, but the way it gets inside you, makes you feel shorter with people, dulls your curiosity, makes you forget what it feels like to really be heard. And that's what I mean by frequency. It's not mystical. It's the way you make people feel before you even open your mouth. And here's where it gets real. The world's been tuning you without your permission. Every headline, every notification, every half-baked hot take. And they're all twisting your dial one click at a time until one day you wake up and realize this isn't even my station anymore. This bonus episode, it's about taking the dial back. Not just for your sake, but because the frequency you practice now is the one you'll carry into every future interaction, including the ones we can't even imagine yet. So, if you're willing, pull your attention in close for the next few minutes, block out the static, and let's retune together. Are you ready? I am. I'm Jonah. I'm your person. Let's get to it. Welcome to this bonus episode of Challenge Accepted with Jonah C., the frequency we forgot and found again. You know what's wild? We're all walking around thinking we're in control of who we are. But most of us, we haven't even checked our own signal in years. And I'm not talking about your playlists, your Wi-Fi, or your Instagram feed. I'm talking about that underneath frequency, the one people pick up on before you say a single word. And somewhere along the line, we let the world start spinning the dial for us. The news, the notifications, the endless stream of opinions. They tell you what's urgent, what's worth reacting to, and what side you're supposed to be on. And without even realizing it, you drift. And that's how you end up saying things you didn't mean, snapping faster than you used to, or walking away from a conversation thinking, that wasn't me. Here's the kicker. If we ever want to meet something or someone not from this planet, that's the frequency they're going to meet first. Not your Instagram bio, not your highlight reel, your energy. So today's challenge is simple. For the next 24 hours, every time you feel that emotional spike, frustration, joy, annoyance, excitement, pause and ask yourself, what frequency am I sending right now? You don't have to be perfect. Just be aware. Because the more you practice here, the better you'll be when there shows up. Let's talk about the Earth test. People love to imagine that if aliens showed up, we'd suddenly become our best selves. The ships would land, the cameras would roll, humanity stands shoulder to shoulder in perfect harmony. Yeah? No. If we can't respect the barista who messes up our order, or the coworker whose opinion makes us grind our teeth, why would we magically nail it with someone whose biology, culture, and worldview we can't even begin to understand? Here's the truth. The test is already happening. Every day, every interaction. The cashier who's having a rough day. The stranger at the crosswalk who won't make eye contact. The friend who sees the world upside down from you. Most of the time, we treat these moments like throwaways. just background noise in the day. But they're not. They're the training ground. They teach your nervous system to either meet differences with curiosity or to default to fear, sarcasm, and shutdown mode. Think about it. Every pause before you snap, every time you choose to listen instead of jumping in without your counterpoint, every moment you decide to see the person instead of a problem, you're rewiring yourself for connection. And when the unknown finally shows up, you'll carry whatever you've practiced here right into the first handshake, the first word, or first moment of eye contact. So, for the rest of today, treat every interaction like it matters, because it does. Listen longer. Notice more. See if you can find one thing about the other person you wouldn't have seen at first glance. It's so important to understand and accept the micro moments in our lives train us. When people talk about preparing for the future, they think big. Global meetings, new technology, speeches that get replayed for decades. But the truth? Your readiness is built in the moments no one else will ever notice. Like the time you cut someone off mid-sentence, or rolled your eyes because their idea made no sense to you, or avoided that one person because they drain you. Every single one of those tiny choices is a rep. You're training your brain for impatience, for dismissal, for shutting down. But this is where it can build. Flip it. Give someone space to finish. Stay in the room with an opinion that challenges yours. Ask one more question instead of shutting the door. Those micro moments are the wiring of your future self. They decide whether you freeze when difference walks in the room or whether you lean in. And make no mistake, difference will walk into the room. Maybe in the shape of a new culture, a new kind of intelligence, or a new way of thinking that pushes you past your comfort zone. Here's what I'd like for you to do. Pick one everyday situation, talking to a friend, ordering coffee, even a quick text, and slow it down. Treat it like it's not a throwaway moment. You might be surprised at how much more you hear, see, and feel. The weight of assumptions kicks our butt. We all carry them. Invisible backpacks stuffed with what we think we know about other people. We assume they see the world like we do. We assume their motives, their fears, their limits. And the moment we hit something unfamiliar, our brain rushes to fill in the blanks, usually with our own story, not theirs. It's sneaky, too. You're standing in line at the grocery store, the person ahead of you is moving slow, and instantly you decide why. They're inconsiderate. They're not paying attention. Meanwhile, you have no idea. Maybe they're buying groceries for a sick parent. Maybe they just got bad news. Maybe they're fighting through the day the best that they can. The danger? Assumptions make us lazy. They block curiosity. They lock us into a version of reality that might not even be true. Now imagine meeting someone or something whose very existence rewrites the rules. If you walk into that moment with your assumptions strapped on tight, you'll miss half the truth before it's even offered to you. So here's what I want you to think about. Instead of asking, do I agree with this? Try asking, what might I be missing? That one question blows the walls out. It makes space for learning, for surprise, and for connection that's bigger than your own reflection. All right, let's talk about the body's role in readiness. We talk a lot about mindset, perspective, and keeping an open mind. But when the moment comes, it's not just your mind that shows up. It's your body, your pulse, your breath, the way your shoulders often soften or lock up. So when we meet something unfamiliar, like a stranger, a language you don't understand, a silence that feels too long, Your nervous system makes the first move. And most of the time, it doesn't ask your permission. That quick step back, the sudden tightness in your jaw, that's your survival wiring kicking in. And here's the thing. Survival wiring isn't bad. It's what kept us alive for millennia. But it's not great at nuance. It's not built to say, this is safe. This is just new. Let's see what happens. Which means if you want to be ready for the unknown, you can't just train your thoughts. You have to train your body to stay open. That could be as simple as grounding your feet when you feel tense, or taking one deep, slow breath before you respond. Let's do that now. Or noticing your hands, your jaw, your spine, and giving them permission to loosen. Because when your body stays in the room, your mind can follow. And if the day comes when you're face to face with the unfamiliar, the difference between panic and presence might just be one breath. Practice this once today. When something feels off or unfamiliar, pause, plant your feet, and take one deep breath. And let your shoulders drop. Notice how different the next moment feels. There are so many languages that I would love to learn how to speak. And every culture has its own language, but not just words. There's rhythm, tone, pauses, the way a sentence rises or falls like a tide. And if you've ever tried to communicate without speaking the same language, you know it's awkward at first. You fumble, you overthink, and you wonder if you're getting any of it right. But here's the deeper truth. Language isn't just about words. It's about frequency. And every conversation carries one, an undercurrent you can feel even if you can't define it. Some people's frequency buzzes fast and sharp, where others move slow and steady. And some speak in a way that makes you lean in, whereas others scatter your focus. Now imagine meeting a mind or an intelligence whose frequency doesn't match anything you've ever felt before. No shared words, no familiar emotional cues, just a signal you've never tuned into. If you've never practiced listening beyond words, you'll miss it entirely. But if you have, if you've learned to listen with your whole body, to notice tone, breath, pacing, and the spaces in between, you'll start to catch it. You'll find that invisible bridge between your frequency and theirs. And maybe that's the real preparation. Not memorizing what to say, but learning how to tune in to what's being said without words. Today, try listening to someone without focusing on their words. Pay attention to their tone, their pauses, the rise and the fall in their voice. Ask yourself, what's the frequency underneath this conversation? All right, I'd like to chat with you now about the frequency we forgot and found again. But I want to pause just for a second and thank you for hanging out with me today. If you like what you're hearing, drop a subscribe, a like, and a follow, and share it with somebody that you think can benefit from the show. And secondly, if you haven't listened to episode 22 yet, it's called The Frequency We Forgot. Take a listen to that one. That's kind of like the mothership of this one. So anyway, here we go. There's a sound we've all known since before we even had words. And it's older than language itself. Older than any story we've told ourselves about who we are. And it's a steady hum of connection. It's the resonance you feel when someone truly sees you, without judgment, without an agenda. It's a signal that says, you're safe here. You belong here. But somewhere along the way, we stopped listening. We tuned ourselves to urgency, to noise, to the survival of beats that the world just throws at us on a daily basis. But that frequency, it never left. It's been here the whole time, waiting under the static and the noise. And every moment you choose curiosity over assumption, openness over fear, presence over retreat, you clear the interference. You bring the signal back into focus. And maybe that's the readiness that really is what we need. Not a plan, not a script, and not a perfect first impression, but remembering sound you've carried in your bones since the beginning and letting it rise again. We will meet that unfamiliar, and we will stand in front of something that asks us to listen in ways we've never listened before. And if we've done the work, if we've kept our ears, our minds, and our hearts tuned in, you might just hear it, that frequency we forgot and found again. I want to thank you once again for joining or continuing to walk this journey with me. Come back each Tuesday where I drop shows that talk about overcoming challenges and conquering our fears with the challenge-accepted mindset. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for hanging out, and have a great week.